Welcome to our show. Sorry, let me start that again.
Mhm.
Welcome to the FinTalk show at ProSAI, where we spotlight entrepreneurs revolutionizing financial services across the world. And today we have a very, very exciting guest. For those of you who are joining us, we are ProSAI and we specialize in helping fintech businesses scale revenue and reduce operational costs. If you're looking to take your fintech to the next level, stick around. If you're looking to start a new business, stick around. We have some really good insights. And if you want a free growth consultation, please drop us the word growth in our DMs and we'll be in touch. Our guest today that I'm really excited to introduce is Benjamin Oladokun, co-founder of Shekel Mobility, a Y Combinator company that is pioneering B2B auto dealership finance across Africa with over 56 million in transactions facilitated and remarkably 0% default rate. Shekel is building what they call the largest auto dealership ecosystem in a 30 billion market. Welcome to the show, Benjamin.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Let's start with your story. Tell our audience who are you? Who's Benjamin? And what's your role at Shekel Mobility?
All right. Thanks a lot and excited to be sharing with the audience, amazing audience. Before I say that or respond to that, I'd like to just double tap on something you mentioned earlier. Right now we processed about $200 million transactions. So I
Right.
guess that must have been some, outdated information at that point. But again, we're doing our stuff. We're not, except maybe when our investors push us out, we just
Yeah.
want to solve the problems. Yeah. So
Right.
Benjamin
Right.
is, yes, thank you. So for the most part, Benjamin he's just like every other person. He's just a young guy, just trying to make a difference in the world. I'll tell you my background. I started business in hindsight, I used to say back then that I started business early, but I don't think so because I think I started my first business, at the age of maybe 17. I think
Right.
that's pretty late, for my son. I've got a son, I've got a daughter as well. Like for my son, he's just 9 and he has his first company already. But you know. So for me, like, yes, first company at 17, but I've always been enterprising. I've done different things, but the first, company, was, at the age of 17. And that was while I was back on campus, Obafemi Awolowo University in,
Wow.
Nigeria. But I think for me, the some of the things are still the same, especially in terms of who you are and what the principles are. And I think one of those fundamental things for me is about caring about other people, right? I think that's one of the things that pushed me out. The first business, which was we I was living in an environment where you know food was it was just one type of food and all of us were complaining. I just felt like, I mean, I've read a lot of books, I just pushed out myself and I solved that problem. I think that has been the foundation of my journey. It's been from
Right.
that to another. I've worked across, I've founded companies across, over 6 industries.
Right.
But I think having that foundation in the hospitality space, is very solid for me because it takes business. I do business, at art, and
Right.
ensuring that, you're caring. So, which is sort of like still the same thing. The journey is long. If we have time, I'll deep dive into, all those different areas. But I think
Right.
even what we do today is caring about a segment that people have neglected, who
Right.
are the auto dealerships. And I would say that for the most part, if you think about the landscape, you realize that these guys are critical, to the the entire automotive industry.
Right.
And it's very important because when you think about mobility for us, the way you think about mobility is not just about cars, especially
Yeah.
for Africa, it's about movement, it's about productivity, it's about people moving.
Right.
So
Right.
and that's really very poor in Africa. Motorization rate is 4% compared to like a US where it's like over 85%. So
Right.
that's what I'm caring about. And we're still there's a lot to there's a lot of work to be done, and yeah, let me pause there. because of time.
Wow. I mean, that's you touch on something very relevant there. I mean, I come from Africa myself, so I know the challenges, the journey of mobility. Can you tell us a bit more about the company itself? What do you actually do? How did it start, and where you are at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll say where it started from was, like I said, caring about the gap. We prior to launching Shekel Mobility, we're in the mobility space. Myself and my co-founder of Beats, we exited the
Right,
company to start this. But the gap we saw there was like auto dealers don't have access to finance, right?
right,
A lot of times, especially the local dealers, you see them as big boys. They have cars in their lots. They have all sort of stuff going, and you think they don't need money, but they do. Obviously, every business needs money. Dangote needs money. Like a lot of people need money to
right.
propel business. Like finance, we know money is the lifeblood of the business. So we
Absolutely.
saw that gap. It was a unique opportunity and a unique point to actually provide finance. So what we are doing prior to that last company was like a fleet management. We did fleet management for Coca-Cola, for Uber, and then we saw that the ability to make a car, make it a collateral was one unique thing that we had. So we're able to leverage this to bridge the gap with the banking partners and
Right,
provide finance. So at the core of what we do is ensuring that auto dealers have liquidity, right, to propel the business forward. Even though
right,
today it has expanded to much bigger landscape where we're ensuring that suppliers of auto, whether car parts,
right,
cars from auctions, from China, all of those things, right? They can easily provide these assets to the dealers in the
right.
local port. So we call it pay with Shekly, where
Mhm.
you can um just pretty much buy anywhere in the world and have it, you pay at the port locally, right?
Wow.
Whether in any part of the world, from Japan, from US, from North America, across, just sort of like helping African dealers buy
Right,
easily. Yep.
right. And when you look at the used car market across Africa, it's in the 30s of billions, but you specifically chose to focus on B2B dealer side of the consumer finance. What gave you this specific insight that this is the area you wanted to get into?
Mm. So let me first say that. So our core is around financing the dealers, not the
Right,
consumers. So we
right,
finance the auto dealers themselves,
right,
right? And it's important to know that every car in itself, because we don't manufacture cars for the most part in Africa, and most of these cars that we're even talking about, it comes from abroad, comes from different parts of the world, North America, from Japan.
right.
So that is the main gap,
Mhm.
because even before it trickles down, there
Yeah,
must be availability of different types of vehicles,
right,
so focusing at the core, like I mentioned, that these dealers are the what I like to call like the VIPs, right, of this industry. So you want to
right,
ensure that the top line, the upstream, so to say, it's sort of like you have that place is free to move before it sort of like trickles down.
mhm,
So there's still a lot of gaps, and I would say that the market is even much bigger than that,
mhm,
especially with our expansion into spare parts, so it's just all automobile related, product,
right,
cars, car parts, spare parts, different things like that. So the
right,
market is about $70 billion, and that sort of like that's where we operate and see a big gap, big gap that we're trying to over the years. Maybe we can even expand down to consumer financing, but it's all about
right.
solving problems. There's a big problem that we're at our hand that we have to solve.
That's a good way to look at it. It's a big problem. You're looking to solve problems. You don't limit yourself to where you are today. Potentially, you could also get into consumer financing depending on how you scale up. But when you look at the dealers themselves, how have you transformed their businesses? Like, what impact do you see this creating on the dealers themselves?
Mm. Well, that's a good question. And it's very important to us, right? I said the first thing is day one of becoming a shekel dealer, you
Mhm.
can actually buy three times more, right?
Right,
Because typically, for the most part, if there's no credit, you've got to outlay all the cash. So with Shekel Mobility, you only need to provide 30% of the capital, and then we can finance up to the difference, So it means that day one of signing up on our system, you
Right.
can do three times more business. And that means three times more growth. Because like yes, maybe a tiny bit of that as a partner, you share. Like, let's say for example, you make 30%, you have to give away 5%, but now you're doing three times more, right?
Mm.
So we're like the best part, we're the best partner for you to go. Other
Yeah.
than that, one of the things, as much as we provide that credit, one of the biggest things that we do is that we also realize that the reason why they don't even have credit or dealers don't have
Right.
credit in the first place is
Mm.
because they're not, credit, like the structure that they have, right,
Right. Mhm.
doesn't make it comfortable. So we then build this intelligence around them such that,
Right.
even the way they run their business is a way where they're bankable, right? The banks can actually lend, to
Right.
them. And I think one of the biggest things that again I like to say is like we have this product where Shylock, where anyone can be a dealer. This was sort of like essentially democratizing this to the point that even you in your own house, like you can have
Yeah.
set up your virtual dealer. If you want to expose your maybe your community, just lead community,
Right.
leveraging on our own back end and everything. You don't need to do anything in literally 1 hour. You can set up your dealership and you're already in business.
Right. So are you also offering something more like a software as a service where they can actually build the infrastructure behind? That's interesting. Wow.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So it's financing, but also build on a SaaS platform that dealerships can. That's an amazing, that's transformational for most of these businesses because as you're saying, they're not bankable. And my next question was going to be, why would a dealer come to you and not go to, like a traditional bank to finance them? But you've probably already answered that question.
I mean, yes, but again, the banks are not giving them because again, the banks cannot. The vehicle, the way we understand the vehicle to be an
Right,
asset, to be a collateral, right? The
right,
banks don't understand it because, especially because most of these transactions, most of these cars are used cars. They've got to
right.
value the vehicle. They've got to, in case of liquidation, they've got to be able to manage all the assets. So it's a bit of like operational work, but of course, because of our own technology, our background, we've built technology that can seamlessly,
Mhm.
support this. So the banks they can't, especially even when we think about like global supplies, right? Because
Right,
we get involved in the shipping, right? If we buy a car, we're literally,
right.
the one shipping the vehicle. The banks can't do all that operational legwork. And that's why we're not lending our own balance sheet. We're
Yeah.
integrated to banking partners. So we're making it seamless for the entire ecosystem, right? Trying to see how the banks can lend to these people, how we can make them more bankable, right? Pretty much. We're a technology company just tying all that together.
Right. Okay. So your 70/30 financing model with zero defaults. This is quite fascinating. This is actually something that is almost unheard of, especially when you're talking about the Africa financing landscape. Banks have struggled with recoveries and all that. Can you walk us through, like the end-to-end process, how you achieve this level of risk control?
Yeah, great question. I think that one of the things I've always said is like I think that founders need to understand their domain a lot better, right?
Right.
So which is one of the edge that we have.
Mm.
We do understand the mobility space quite deeply, right? So,
Right.
and this was built, from a lot of insights and also
Mm.
trying to ensure that we solve all the problems that exist. So, one of the things I would say that the car is itself, there's no two car in the world that has like the same, chassis number. So, like
Right.
the chassis number is the identifier for the vehicle, right? So, in that way,
Right.
like you can so that each asset is trackable what we're financing, and the structure we built around is like we're actually the one that own the assets, right?
Mhm.
Until so it's like we're as much as we're a financing company, so to say, where we have the financing leg, we're more of like an auto, we're like automotive company, right? You know how like Uber is the they
Right.
don't have the but then they so that's the same way we're doing this, such that we ourselves
Right.
are a dealership, right? At the core of it, right? So when
Mhm.
we're buying the vehicle, we're
Right.
buying it, right? And you, even though it's like you know decentralized to you, such that
Right.
but we have the necessary controls that we need to have
Right.
without disrupting your business, right?
Mhm.
And then you're able to have all the, all that you need to sell that transaction,
Right.
but we have all the control that we need to have to ensure that our partners, are happy, right? So we buy the vehicle ourselves, everything happens on our platform. We verify the vehicle. Each vehicle is verified. We chat, like I said, with the chassis number. We do all the inspections. So literally just ensuring that the flow of the funds
Yeah.
and the flow of the assets is strictly controlled to the end point. Even when the consumer buys the car, it pays to
Right.
us, and then we
Right.
ensure the seamlessness of it. So we've just built that robust system around this that there's no way the car, even if they don't sell the car, right,
Yeah.
we can liquidate to other dealerships,
Right.
around. We have that
Right.
ecosystem. Like if they don't sell the car in time, we liquidate to other dealerships, around. And we also have insurance, right? The cars are insured, right? So we
Mhm.
have to tune that even if the dealers don't sell that car, or if a car gets misplaced somehow, right?
Right.
We get our money back. So it's tight.
That's an amazing risk control process, especially the fact that everything happens within your platform, including when the consumer, because that was going to be my next question. So you own the asset while it's with the dealer until the final consumer buys, but the payment process then goes through the platform. That's very tight control. Amazing stuff.
Thank
Amazing
you.
stuff. Now, you're operating at the moment, you're operating mainly in Nigeria. You have presence in Kenya. You have operations, I think, in the US. How do you manage that operational complexity across different jurisdictions?
Uh, I think one of the things that is very important to us as a team, myself and my co-founders, so me, also the founding team and our management team across board is like we we ensure that the unit economics is solid,
Mm.
right? So scale is easier, right? And at the same time, we're product led, and I don't feel it if I mean with our partnerships now, we will distribute to all of Africa, and it's not
Right.
going to like I'm not going to move, right? Because the way we've structured the transactions, it ends at the port. All the logistics to the port happens, and literally, yeah. So I can
So,
be in 50 countries, so to say, and because the fundamental thing for us is the unit economics, the business
mhm,
model, how it sort of scales is super important. I don't mind spending a lot of time on ensuring I crack that before
mhm.
I move. So again, US, of course, we're a US company, YC backed, so you've got to be US company.
Yeah.
Um, and then like we said, we're shipping a lot of cars from. So we've got dealership in the
Mm.
US, we've got operations in the US. Um,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like even though we started from Nigeria, which were like
Mhm.
there's a heavy, a part of the team in Nigeria.
Right.
But like I said, we're scaling out to all of Africa. And it's still the
Wow.
same principles around ensuring you have a solid unit economics, and
Right.
also ensuring that you have a solid business model that can literally scale to every part of the world.
Right, amazing. Talking about YC, it is generally a very intense experience. What was the biggest insight or pivot that came from that experience, and how did that change your approach in how you're addressing things today?
Ah, man, I'd say that the simple way I like to describe YC is
Yeah,
the Harvard for startups, right? You know, um, so in general, you know how it is, like your, Harvard boy, Stanford boy. It's sort of like
right.
it gives you like, even when they introduce someone and says from Harvard, everybody just
Yeah,
feels like, oh, maybe he's coming with something.
yeah,
So I think one of the things it does for you is I mean, when you're building and right beside you is like the sea of stripe, literally everybody that has built everything in the world, like we're here together. It sort of gives you that reinforces that
yeah.
confidence. Because I'll say that a majority
Right,
of your success in life is connected to your self-esteem, right? Ability to
right.
be confident, and be
Yeah,
able to chart your course, right? But when
yeah.
you go through programs like that, it sort of solidifies the fact that you can do a lot. I remember
Right.
prior to Y Combinator, it was tough talking to the banks. I remember, and I was talking to Michael Sibel, very great guy, um, you know, and
Yeah,
he was like, I mean, he can walk to a bank with short knicker. Like, this is literally, how the culture is in Silicon Valley, San Francisco. Like, unlike Africa, where like, when you're going to a bank, you want to. But
Yeah.
that now, like, it really helps. Like the confidence, like,
Right.
like we want to help. Do you get
Right.
that kind of stuff? So it has helped a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
also because now you have a name, people, so you can't just do that without something. But I
Yeah.
think it's really very solid. Then from that, we switched off balance sheets, because before that, we had to learn on our own balance sheets. No banks was going to trust us, all of those things.
Right.
But post
Right.
YC, we're able to break into that, and that has been
Right.
one of the biggest, success points for scaling.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, as you're saying, it gives you a lot of leverage. You are very much interconnected, but it also gives you that validation. When you have the name on your CV on your platform, it gives you a lot of validation. Now, going maybe closer now to the ground, to the market. How do you typically acquire dealers in markets where trust and relationships are paramount? What's your go-to-market strategy? How do you identify these dealers to work with?
Mm. No, I mean, I think that's the easiest, for us.
Right.
I mean, we don't have a problem with that. Our problem is really about meeting the needs of the dealers. Demand is not the problem for us. More of like ensuring that we have adequate partnerships to
Right.
meet other partners in tune of 100 and about $100 million, just so that we
Mhm.
can finance a lot more transactions for people. But I'll say that one of the ways, because we typically have two types of dealers, right? There's a local dealer and there's the agent dealer. For the local dealer, they're very easy to find. Of course, the local dealer actually puts himself out there, right? Car lots, different things online. They're very easy to find, right? Because they themselves, they need to be found by customers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
usually, like, they're just, combine areas. You can sign
Mm.
up dealers, but it's also one that, the system, we have more inbound right now because they talk amongst themselves, and we have dealers
Right.
come, to us. Again, for the agent dealers, especially, we're still, sort of in testing that, before we scale that bit.
Yeah.
For those ones, yes, maybe you might take a different approach, but
Mhm.
for the most part, a lot of dealers, come to us. But I would say also that the biggest unlock for us is also integration to suppliers, right?
Yeah.
When we get to one supplier, we get 1,000 dealers on the other side. So yes, it's getting
Right.
dealers is easy peasy for us.
Do you have a target, like how many dealers you're looking to achieve, or what size? What's your growth ambition as a company?
I mean, so our plan is to sustain a 10x growth year on year.
Right.
Um, so we're currently about like $5 million ARR now.
Hmm.
Um, where again we should get to like 10 before the end of the year,
Hmm.
but by this time next year, we're doing like maybe a $50 million, and this is revenue now, so this is not transactions. So
Yeah.
um typically, like, where we process over $200 million, like I said, we plan to unlock $1 billion transactions before the end of next year. And I think, but in the grand scheme of things, right, we we plan to be $100 million ARR business, latest in 2 years. It can be earlier, some of the partnerships that we're working on. And more importantly, we actually plan to be $1 billion revenue business. And that's, I don't think anyone is there's no African company that's currently doing that.
Wow.
Because of the market size and because of the opportunities ahead of us,
Mhm.
and the sort of investors that we're bringing on in this new round, we
Mhm.
can unlock $1 billion revenue, before 2030. That's kind of the
Wow.
opportunity size that we're talking about.
That is an amazing opportunity. That's an amazing outlook that you have. I mean, if looking at that kind of ambition, looking at that kind of vision that you have, if you had like a magic wand to fix one thing that will help you get there, what would that thing be? Because
Whew.
you're looking big numbers here. You're looking a $1 billion revenue for an African company is an amazing achievement by any
Yeah,
means.
yeah.
Um, there you go. You have a magic wand. What would you want to see change?
I mean, let me just get there. Like, let me just shake it, and tomorrow, like, we're already, selling at the stock exchange. But yeah, on a serious
Yeah.
note, I think that one of the biggest things is because like we've built this model in such a way that it's seamless. I
Right.
think the biggest thing now is the how would I call it now? The the operating at the highest level, especially when it comes to like, introductions to like the biggest, when you want to integrate to like the big partners, the big players, sometimes it takes, a while, but that ensuring that we have that, that operating on the wavelength such that we're able to, secure all of the credit that we have. But
Right.
I must be honest, I must say that we're actually even making progress with that now,
Mhm.
because like we understand that very deeply, and
Yeah.
we're profitable as a company, so we're not necessarily looking for investors. So now we're
Mhm.
looking for the right investors, and we've been very clear that see, as an
Mhm.
investor, we need an investor that can do introductions to like, all the supply. Like I just want to be integrated to all the distribution network in Africa today. Like
Right.
we have the infrastructure to do that. We just need the, we need the that level of relationships, at
Right.
the highest level to just ensure that we can play at that highest level. But
Right.
we're making a lot of progress. We have an investor who's saying, I have 100
Yeah.
million dollar line for you guys to propel these transactions,
Right.
and we're making a lot of progress on that.
And who would your typical integration partners be who can really propel you to that next level?
Oh, great question. I think so. The way we think about it now is like a B2B2B model,
Right.
right? Where
Mhm.
where all the suppliers that are currently even selling to Africa, right?
Right.
Be it cars, be it car parts, you know,
Mhm.
at the core of it, they kind of offer embedded finance because KYC is
Right.
hard. They don't even understand know these people. So that's why we're here, right? Bridge that gap and ensure that credit can flow seamlessly, for
Right.
cross-border transactions. I must say that this is not even even internationally. Like if you want to
Right.
buy a car cross-border into the
Mhm.
US, into other markets, like
Right.
no one is offering that credit cross-border because now it means you're doing, a lot of things together, to shipping, all of those
Mhm.
things, bringing it all together into one. The KYC in another market, all of those
Yeah.
things, So um pretty much that is sort of like, the way we're thinking about, that
Right.
space with integrating to the people that already supply. We just want to make it easier for you to collect your money, right? We just want to make
Right.
it easy for you to sell more. So if you're a
Right.
manufacturer of cars, you want to sell into Africa, talk to us.
Right.
You're an
Right.
auction platform, you're selling to
Right.
Africa, talk to us. And some
Right.
of these people, they want to sell to Africa even today, but they can't because they don't even like beyond even the credits. Like they,
Yeah.
they don't even have like the understanding of the KYC system
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
recently there were even some gaps with the auction platforms where
Mhm.
they wanted to stop dealing with a lot of African countries because of
Right.
money anti money laundry, money
Mhm.
laundry
Mhm.
issues, different
Mhm.
things like that. So some of these rails are hard, but at the core
Right.
of it, that's the infrastructure that we're building, the infrastructure for suppliers of these car parts and cars to sell, to
Right.
be able to we're just de-risking that process for them to sell
Right.
faster, better, quicker to dealers in Africa.
Right. Amazing. Now, looking at the industry trends, the market trends, we see a lot of technology now with mobile money integration. Africa is quite big in this. We're also looking at things like AI credit scoring playing a role. How are these technologies reshaping auto finance in Africa, and in particular your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, if you care a lot about your customers or you care a lot about your process, you
Right.
leverage all the necessary, development, all the necessary tools to just see how you can, better, your process. So
Right.
absolutely, like in a lot of ways, like I think for us, one of the biggest things, foundation is even the credits, scoring systems that we've
Right.
had to build. Like, so we've also had to leverage a lot of platforms and different things like that. But I mean, that's one of the core things. Yes, it's the car is the asset, but at the same time, you got to ensure that you can buy the vehicle. We're not in business to sell cars. We're in business to ensure that you can sell the car, right? So at the core of it, yes, that's a fundamental part of our platform. But like literally also leveraging artificial intelligence, especially on the two things. So one on the making the process of helping the dealers even more efficient.
Right.
We leveraging because and I think that's the biggest thing. You must ensure that you're not just you're leveraging, these tools or these technologies to solve
Right.
real problems, not just nice to haves. So
Mhm.
at the core of it is ensuring that we're more efficient as a business. Our dealers are
Right.
more efficient.
Right.
When I trickle it down to like the virtual dealers, where
Right.
you can set up your dealership in like 30 seconds, 30 minutes, right? All of that, background, like different things, ensuring that you can have like your vehicles, you create ads for them on different, different wavelengths and different things like that. We're leveraging artificial intelligence as well. So we keep my chief product officer my chief technology officer is actually he loves experiments. He has a team set out for experiments, and we're always exploring the latest technologies to see how we can actually leverage this to help, our customers.
Right. Amazing. When you look at the competitive landscape, I can't actually really think who your competitors might be, but going to like the big players, the big banks, they could be smelling an opportunity here also. But how do you maintain your edge as the fast mover in this space?
I mean, I think that we've worked with the banks for a long time, and uh, the, the 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 best of them, can collaborate with us.
Right.
Banks, when you think about banking, like it's highly regulated, such that there's so they can't be so nimble in so many ways,
Right.
right? We're much
Mm.
faster, right? So a bank cannot compete with me. Like I beat you to it
Yeah.
10 times. So one
Right.
of the best things that, like I said, the smart ones are doing now is that they're collaborating with us, seeing
Hmm.
how we de-risk this asset
Yeah.
class, and make the vehicle an asset class that it can lend against.
Right.
Yeah, the smart ones are already joining the train.
Okay.
It's not something when you think about that, like, because part of what makes us unique is that we're bringing a lot of things, together into one.
Right.
You know, um, and again, I mean, it's a big market. Anyone
Yeah.
can, anyone can try.
Anyone can try, but I think, as you're saying, that collaboration effort from the banks become more your partners rather than your
Absolutely.
competition because of how you've managed to de-risk this asset, this category in particular, which is, as I said, absolutely amazing to imagine that you've done those many transactions, that kind of volume, dollar-wise, and no default. That's unheard of. I think a lot of people would be interested to definitely work with you. Um, Anything you would like to tell our viewers, our audience, anything in particular that you'd like to say about the company, about yourself, and your vision and where you're headed?
Hmm. I think so from a company perspective, I'll just say that um happy to, collaborate. It's not our problem, it's an African problem. We're trying to just get the continent better.
Yeah,
Um, to bridge the gap, make the lives of a lot of people easier, whether on collaborating as a virtual dealer, to make money there, jobs are created on that side, or
right.
whether seeing how you are, even as a consumer, like it's a better Africa for all of us. So I mean, please reach out
Yeah,
through platforms if you want to collaborate.
yeah,
We're not slowing down. We're not slowing
right,
down at all. As a matter of
right,
fact, there's a lot of energy, there's stuff going on. We're acquiring the company I mean, there's so many things going on
right.
for us. Probably doing our Series A in a couple weeks. But yeah, it's a big opportunity. Join if
Yeah,
you can. But I
yeah,
think beyond that, just to also say that um I personally think that every one of us has something to give, and
right.
if we all think about giving rather than just getting, the world
Right.
will be perfect, right? So there's little gaps that each one can find and fill. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to be $1 billion opportunity. It can just be 100 million. It can be a 10 million. It can be 1 million, whatever it is, right? Let's just see how we can solve problems, how we can care for gaps, how we can especially leverage whatever it is that we have, because we all have something, and then, fill gaps for people, make life better for the next person, for, 10 people around you, and create systems around it, and the world will be perfect. That's
That's
it.
that's a That's a great way to end it. I mean, just to recap, we've explored how you are really revolutionizing the dealership finance across Africa and beyond. It's clear you're not just building a fintech, you're creating an entire ecosystem, that is transforming a small dealership, how small dealers access capital. The fact that you've layered in some of the, tools that they can use as software as a service is an amazing way to help them scale their business. Benjamin, thank you very much for sharing those insights into the future of African auto finance. Where can our viewers connect with you and listeners? Where can they connect with you? How can they know more about Shekel Mobility? What are your channels for them to reach out?
Yeah, I think first of all, if you Google us, just Google Shekel Mobility, a lot
Yeah,
some things will pop up. But
yeah,
yeah, from there, our websites, we've got Instagram channels, we've got LinkedIn channels. Those
right,
are the regular, channels, but I think the website is, one of the biggest, especially if you want to collaborate as a partner. But if
right.
you want to reach out personally, yeah, maybe some of these other social platforms. I think me personally is Ben Oladokun. But you can just search me as well, like Benjamin. But my Benjamin is with an E, Benjamin,
Yeah,
not Benjamin, right? So it's Benjamin Oladokun. So you can search us as well. By the way, I'll be
yeah.
speaking at the Afrotech conference in Texas
Hmm.
next month. So I
Right.
mean, if you're in Texas as well, please
Yeah,
let's connect. I mean, always good to collaborate. It's our world, so it's always good to collaborate. You never know, stuff comes,
amazing.
two amazing minds, speak. So yeah, it was great being here. Thank you so much for the
Amazing,
opportunity.
amazing stuff. Thanks all for tuning in. If you found this episode as insightful as we did, please subscribe, share it with anyone in the fintech space or Africa ecosystem. You can also find more episodes and resources in our website, YouTube channel, LinkedIn, or Spotify. We'll be back again next week with another entrepreneur reshaping the financial services. And until then, keep building. Thank you very much.